We are in fact crafting dim mines. We're minding dim crafts. Hey everybody, Joe here. It's been a little bit, but we back. I got a little sinus thing going on, but besides that, I'm fucking ready. How about you? I see Ariad here. Hey. How's your week going? What day is today? Monday? How was your weekend? That's a better question. How did your week start? Also, new camera angle. I have put it on top of my shorter monitor, off to the side a little bit. It's got kind of like this nice 3/4 view a little bit. You can see the back corner there with all of my mic stands and my room recorder just sort of hanging out there. It should really be in a case, but we're gonna do the thing. I'm gonna turn this music down a little bit more. Everywhere. There we go. Turn it back up a little bit. Okay, cool. Lovely weekend. And today I made carbonara for dinner. Ooh, nice. I made kind of like a sketchy version of like cacio e pepe. I think that's how you say it. Cacio e pepe. E pepe. It's not a pepe. It's e pepe because it's like and, right? Yeah. That was pretty good. I really need to cook again. I was doing good for like a week or two, trying to cook normally again, and then I just kind of stopped. Also, no idea where I am on the server, so we'll just, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I was just, I remember sort of venturing out and going into a mine or something to get obsidian. I think I was trying to find some lava to get obsidian. So I'm just kind of continuing that now. Also, no idea what's going on with the performance, but every once in a while my computer keeps like just kind of chugging. So no idea what's going on there. I'm bad at getting cacio e pepe to emulsify. I always get strings of cheese chunks. Yeah, it was a little stringy. The recipe I had was very adamant about like mixing in the water and the cheese in like what did I just fucking do? Mixing in the water and the cheese in like parts, instead of dumping things in as I usually do when I'm cooking, because I'm not a person who cooks usually, so I don't think about these things. And I think that probably helped a little bit. Yeah, I really wish I had that water right now. That was really dumb to do. But I guess we're gonna go back down. Past Joe, what were you thinking? Yeah, starch water helps create the sauce. Yeah, exactly. Instead of just getting melty cheese, which is, good in its own way. Purple, hey, how's it going? How was your weekend? We're on the new Fanit server, which I guess I should put here. I think that's still there. There we go. It's for anybody watching who doesn't have to be on it. Yeah, we're on the new Fanit server. It's updated to 1.20. We got a new map. We're still trying to figure out where exactly we want to build our, like, sort of home. We're trying to build a more, like, cohesive sort of hub for everybody to live at this time, as opposed to, like, building, wandering around and building in random places. Also, let me know if I'm a lot quieter than usual. I feel like I'm quieter than usual. How's that? Is that too loud? Is that like distorted, or does that sound normal? Guess what? I'm on vacation, which means all of my messages are going to be very delayed. Hell yeah! Well, I hope you're enjoying your vacation. Well, we've got more water over here. Nope, 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 nope. Stay away. Nope. You stay away. Bad. You sound good. Okay, cool. Well, then I will leave it how it is. I mean, I turned it up a little bit already, so. Also, I'm going to turn the music back up a little bit because there's this nice, like, acoustic thing happening. This is from the Enderall soundtrack. I don't know if... Did anybody play Enderall? Or know what Enderall is? Because I can explain it if nobody does. There are entirely too many mobs here. I'm done. I don't want to do this. 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 Hey, I don't. No. Fuck off. Oh, diamonds. No, hey. There we go. I think I distracted the other ones enough. No, fuck you. Oh, you're a spider. You're fine. I can take care of you. No problem. Yeah, fuck me. No. Okay. Enderall was a Skyrim mod that a team did. I can't remember where they were based. I want to say they were a German team, but if they're not a German team, then they're going to be really offended that I called them a German team. So I'm really sorry, guys. I don't remember how I stumbled across them, but I somehow got involved with their community temporarily. Like back when I was really on that whole like making video essays grind. I wanted to do a Let's Play series on the Enderall games, or on the Enderall mod. I believe they ended up making it a standalone game. I know that was their goal, was to eventually make it a standalone game. But it, yeah, I don't know if that ever actually happened. Basically, it was a total conversion mod for Skyrim, which if you're familiar with the Skyrim modding community, basically means it's a whole new game just built on the bones of Skyrim as a sort of system and graphics engine. Fuck me. I didn't follow my torches. That creeper is right behind me. Yeah, so they basically made a whole new ass game in Skyrim, and it's based in their own world and everything. Like all of the lore is original. I have no fucking idea where I am. There's my torches. And they came up with this really cool world. I loved the magic system that they came up with. Like in universe, I loved the magic system that they came up with. I wasn't too keen on its implementation in Skyrim, but that's just because Skyrim as a game does not use magic very well, I don't think. But yeah, it was just a cool little indie project that like blossomed into like this full development cycle. And they made a really cool thing and made an awesome original soundtrack, which is what you were hearing there for a little bit. And I ended up doing a few episodes of a Let's Play on it. And I got like 3 or 4 episodes into the game, so maybe like 12 hours, like a significant chunk of time into the game. And I was still like at the beginning of the sort of narrative they were telling. And so little of it was like explained well enough that I, wanted to engage with it mechanically. It was just really sad because I was like falling in love with the story, but the game itself I found so terribly unenjoyable to play. It made me really sad. So I ended up taking down my videos on it because I didn't like, I watched them back after, when I was like deciding if I wanted to continue the series. I watched them back and realized like half of the videos were just me complaining about how unfun it was to play. And I was like, I don't want to be this guy. Hurdy red, hurdy blue, or anti-hurdy. Yeah, basically. Yeah, no, that was one of the things I liked about their magic system. It was sort of similar to this TTRPG that I had played when I was a teenager called Tephra. But they had lots of like, if I remember right, they had lots of like time and gravity manipulation stuff that was really fun to mess with. And just very like, very much like this is a mod, you know, feel, because it was kind of janky, but, you know, really good in that way. It was fun. It's probably, like, I imagine somebody listening to this, it is probably their jam. I would recommend checking out the Enderall mods. It's not like you have to, I don't think they're paid or anything. But, yeah. Best video game action magic is Arx Fatalis. I tried to play Arx Fatalis a couple years ago, and then I was like, ooh, I should stream this, and then I never played any more of it. So I would really like to dive into Arx Fatalis at some point. Because that was that Arcane? That was one of Arcane's first games, right? Arcane Studios? Yeah, you draw spells with the mouse and save them to use later. Yeah, I think that's so fucking cool. There was a game I played in VR recently that they tried to do something similar. I can't remember what the game was called. Fuck. It was so bad, though. Oh, man. It was in an Iron Pineapple video, because it was a Souls-like, I think. Maybe? Or was it Habby that covered it? I can't remember. Some YouTuber covered it, but it was very much ripping on the Arx Fatalis thing of like drawing runes in order to cast spells, but you had to draw the rune every time, and the like, it's in VR, so you're not going to get very accurate input to begin with, but also the tolerances on like your input were really low. I just realized Minecraft was really quiet. There you go. We want some Minecraft sounds. But the tolerances on the input were really tight, so it made it really punishing to not input runes correctly. Just sad. Oh, hey, speaking of Skyrim. I believe this is actually off of the Oblivion soundtrack. But you know what I mean. So anyways, this is the server world. That place that I was just at was a village that that Leo found. That was naturally growing up around like a cherrywood forest. For her, just wait till you get a 3.5. Oh, I just realized we didn't have chat up on the screen. There you are. There's chat. Her, just wait till you get a 3.5 grand fish. Dude, oh my god. I mean, I'm glad that they included the ability to do VR in the headset. That's good. Because originally, Tim Apple seemed very against VR and seemed like he was going to do the hard line, like, no, this is strictly an AR or MR, whatever, XR headset. So it looks like you do have an immersive mode or whatever they want to call it that is like true VR, I guess. But the specs that thing has, like, it just doesn't justify the price tag. Like, the Apple markup is ridiculous to begin with, but that headset, like, man, it's offensive to me as an early adopter of VR. I'm so fucking mad seeing like what has become of the VR market. Who did this? I don't know who did this, but I like this farm. That's a cool layout. Are those potatoes? Those are potatoes. I think we got some carrots from someone too. From a zombie drop. Didn't we? I wonder if they planted those over here. This looks really cool. Whoever did this. Yeah, carrots. Okay, cool. We got some sniffers already? Where did we get these guys? I hate the what, wait till Apple does it better. Yeah. It's so fucking frustrating. Wait. Does water that's suspended like this hydrate blocks around it? I guess it would, right? I had no idea that was a thing. Oh, you stay down there. That's cool. Oh, hey, speaking of Minecraft. We got Minecraft music. I do want to figure out what we're doing with this. Maybe we'll fix that. Anyways, we transplanted some cherrywood saplings. Yes, those are new creatures. They're sniffers. So I don't remember what they are supposed to do. Fuck. I was hoping that just dropping one block wouldn't do that. Whatever. Sorry, whoever did this. I think it was probably Bolton that set this up. Oh, they dropped one of the seeds. Yeah, so the sniffers, as far as I know, I'm not super familiar because they were just added, but they pull up these, they basically sniff around for plants, or for plant seeds, and they pull them up, and then you can plant them. I don't know. I think you do have to put them in farmed dirt. Yeah. Hell yeah. Those are pitcher pods. I think that's what these are. I'm fairly certain. I don't want to break them because I don't know if I will be able to pick them up. Yeah, they just they find rare plants that are supposed to be like, yeah, it says planting the past was the achievement or whatever. They're supposed to be sort of connected to the history or lore of Minecraft, whatever. I don't know. But they're cute. I'm sure there's some functionality to them that I don't know yet because I haven't looked into it. Oh yeah, I was saying on the, I was talking about the Apple headset. I can't remember what I was saying. Oh, that it's bad. Yeah, because I was an early adopter of VR, and it's just, it's one of those things where, like, obviously, like, to anyone who has ever used a VR headset, it is so obvious the limitations of the technology that, like, anybody who hypes up VR as this, like, world-changing thing and, like, compares it to Ender's Game or fucking, what's the one that everybody references, that they referenced in the Apple headset trailer? I can't remember what it's called. Fuck. Something one. I'm completely blanking. Anyways, you know the one I'm talking about, the book/movie. Yeah, anybody who compares like actual VR headsets to those things is either a grifter, like a VC grifter who is trying to pump and dump a project, or they are terribly unfamiliar with VR as a concept. Ready Player One, thank you. Like, anybody who knows what they're talking about knows that VR is really only good for games and certain kinds of immersive simulation that you can use for, like, training purposes. This song goes hard. Tee-hee Time? Is this from the Bone Whatever soundtrack? Tee-hee Time. Oh, this is from Omori. Man, I really need to play that game. Fuck y'all. I'm sorry my throat sounds all gross. Yeah, it's just it's sad to see because I really felt strongly connected to the VR community when I first got started, and then over time, like between the Rift being bought by Meta and all these other like pump and dump schemes for VR headsets happening, and then this Apple headset, like it feels sort of like a nail in the coffin. Like, after this point, because like who among Apple fans is going to use this for gaming? You're going to get a bunch of bourgeoisie or petty bourgeoisie who are going to buy this thing, and they're going to try to use it for productivity. They're going to try to use it for watching movies. They're going to try to use it for other forms of entertainment. And they're going to have terrible experiences because VR is not good at those things. And then they're going to write articles about it, and they're going to write essays, and they're going to do videos and shit, and they're going to go to their board meetings, and they're going to shit on the industry of VR. And then it's going to be done. And Apple will have killed it. That's my take on the Apple headset. Is that it's going to kill the VR industry. I know. It's doomer, but it's how I feel. I need to make us a little warehouse over here. I'm also going to... Do I have my mute set up? No, I do not. We're doing a Ricola. Okay. This is also from the Enderal soundtrack. Which, it is something I really, really respected from that project, that they invested so much into original music. One of the things they did that I thought was really cool was they recorded a bunch of Bard songs to have in the game. The recordings are not great. Like, the performances are fine, but just the recording quality is not super great. But the fact that they put in the effort to include that in their game, I thought was pretty cool. Okay. So I'm going to do a few things. I want to set us up with a little, well, nah, we should just explore. Fuck it. Yeah, we got plenty of stuff. We're gonna need food for our adventure. Let's go ahead and smoke that. That'll be smoking while we do this. Where do we want to put this? We could put it down here so it's away from everything. You don't want to do it so far that it's annoying to get to, though. I think this will be fine. There we go. Well, let's see what happens. Okay, and then I believe Leo's village is to the west? That seems right. Let me double check in the overworld. I can't use the bean redeems because I don't have good internet. Oh no! Here, I'll throw in a complimentary. Yeah, okay, west. West is where he is. Probably should have grabbed the coordinates while I was over there. That's okay. So I think what I'm gonna do is head in his direction. I know Leo's already done a lot of exploring. I think I'll head in his direction and try to find his portal. And then we'll head back the other direction. Or should we not even waste our time since we've got a path over there in the overworld? Should we let somebody else connect them and we just go exploring to the east? Or to the north? I know that I'm going to need to go north eventually. Because there's a... there's a desert to the north that we want to get to because there's a lot of desert biome-based stuff in this update. We can do that. What do y'all think? Go north? I'm kind of thinking go north. I thought that was lava for a second, and I was about to scream. Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, if we make a portal in the right place... we could get there. I know it's like 1,700 blocks north, according to the map. I don't know what that is in nether distance. I think, what is it? It's an 8-to-1 ratio in the nether, right? So if it's like 1,600 away, that would make it 200 in the nether. Yeah, we could just punch through this wall. It looks like it's gonna go away over here. It's gonna drop over there. Let's punch through this wall. We're gonna do a 2-wide path, and we're just gonna head this direction. Oh, my playlist is looking for files that I renamed their home folder the other day, so it's not gonna find them. I was right. Well. Is this the Hellblade soundtrack? Whoops. I did not mean to do that. They recently covered Hellblade on on the Something Rotten podcast. Is anybody familiar with Something Rotten? They brought up some interesting stuff in their discussion, but I was kind of disappointed with how negative they were about the game, because the song we're listening to is from Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. And yeah, there was a lot of assumptions they were making about the game world and how things worked and sort of like what the point of things were. They were like very clearly explained in, I think, within the game, but also like in media outside of the game, that the developers put together. They're sort of like dev diaries. Yeah, and I was just kind of disappointed that they had some of the negative takes that they had about it. But alas, yeah. It's okay. Hey, that's one of the things about the algorithmification of media. We all have our little, like, content consumption silos. Anyways, I do recommend the Something Rotten podcast. It's good shit. It's Jacob Geller, the YouTuber, like video essayist, who is also on Nebula. And just is incredibly based and cool and good. It's him and one other guy whose name I am completely forgetting, and I feel bad for. I guess I could talk about this now, since there's so few of us. Speaking of Nebula, which is basically, shitification is indeed shitty. Yes, I agree. Oh, were you, did you watch the Vosh stream today? Because he was talking about shitification. Or maybe that was yesterday, I don't remember. There was an article that he was reading about shitification. I think it was the article that came up with the term. I forget who it was. And I cannot even remember the context now. Oh, it was about the Reddit thing. Anyways, what I was going to say is that possibly next week, but probably the week after that, I am going to open up a Patreon. Not the Fan It Patreon. My own Patreon. And I'm still part of the Fan It. Still making stuff with them. I'm just gonna be releasing like music and sample packs and specifically like stuff for TTRPGs, you know, like ambient background music to play at the table and like resources to help playing more fun and like behind the scenes stuff and you know. I'm gonna have trouble marketing it because I just want it to be a sort of repository for everything that I do, so that I have an excuse to actually work on the stuff that I want to work on. So, anyways, that's the sort of soft announcement, is that I will be starting a Patreon within the next week or two. And it's going to be very cheap to sign up. So, yeah. My goal is to just basically guilt people into signing up because my birthday is 2 weeks from now. I'm just gonna shamelessly be like, it's my birthday, you have to give me money. That's the plan. But it's not launched yet. It's coming very soon. I've got a few things I want to clean up. Technically the page is up, but yeah. I'm excited about it. I'm a little nervous because I had a Patreon a few years ago and I had like 2 or 3 people sign up, but they never interacted with anything. And there were like subscriber goals and stuff that I had that they like completed that I needed their input on for like what to do. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was like some interactive thing I was doing. And like nobody ever responded. And since it was just 2 or 3 people, I just kind of like stopped. And then like one person left because they do like the patron like exit reviews or whatever, where they have the option of like leaving comments or whatever. And this guy just said like terribly mean shit about me like not fulfilling my like what he was promised or whatever. And I went through the guy's log, and like he got everything that he was supposed to get. So it was yeah, I was really turned off to the idea of Patreon for a little bit, because it was just like, I'm normally fine with the parasocial thing, but once money gets involved, it gets really weird, and people can get really entitled and needy, and that's just not my vibe. So I'm trying to be very clear that this one is like, you know, here are your rewards for these tiers. I'm not doing anything else. So we'll see. I have high hopes about it. I'm also much more organized now than I was then, so you know. We'll see what happens. That song was really pretty. Oh, it's from ESO. Man, ESO has an incredible soundtrack. Did I tell you guys I was trying to get involved with the Skywind project to make some music for them? Yeah, I hope so too. It's not like I've been accepted into the project or anything. They liked some of the stuff that I sent over. They just wanted me to like update my portfolio with some of the music that I had sent them, because I didn't have any of it released yet. So I have to do that before I resubmit. But yeah, I'm excited about that too. That was also part of the impetus for the Patreon, was like, man, when I have something that I like need to do, I can be so fucking productive. So it's like, if I just like had stuff I needed to work on for you know, the sake of, you know, making somebody happy, or, you know, producing a piece of media that somebody is looking forward to, like music, then it's so much easier for me to trick my brain into like wanting to work on things. I need to be guilted into being productive. Otherwise, it's just full, like, it's whatever my ADHD wants to do, and that's not helpful. Like, my ADHD has been so bad lately. I fully hyperfixated the last couple days and wrote a micro RPG system based on the Twisted Metal video game series. I wrote it. It's done. Like, I need to edit it to like clean up the language and stuff, but like the rules are done. It's ready for playtesting. It's just like a little 8-page RPG, you know, where you build a character and you build the like car that they drive, and then you fight people, and that's it. That's the whole game. But I hyperfixated on that hard the last couple days, and that's all I've been able to think about. Fortunately, I hyperfixated long enough to finish the, you know, the bulk of the project. Now the question is, will I actually release it? I hope I will. I just realized I don't need that up anymore. God damn it. I don't want to go down there. I need fucking, the elytra. That's pretty close to where we need to. I think that I did the Vine Boom effect. I did not hear it. Let's see. Yeah, sound alerts is on. Let me do a thing. Properties. Looks like it's fine. Let me go to the sound alerts website. That plugin is so janky. Okay, no, I don't see any sound alerts for today. I can't redeem it. I'm sorry, Purple. Yeah, I don't see any redemptions for today. So at least that means, you know, it's not necessarily broken on my end. That is hopeful. For other people, at least. Couldn't I do the thing? Can't you, like, ride down in a boat and not die? Right? Isn't that a thing? This is, like, 101 level Minecraft. Do you take fall damage in a boat? You can use it while falling, but a boat is also useful if you need to get down from a high place. Get into a boat and push it over the edge to get down. As long as you keep using the movement keys to row the boat, you will not receive any fall damage. Well, do we want to take the risk? Boats can break when falling from certain heights, and the riders take fall damage. So in Java Edition, it's risky. I'm not going to do it. Man, I do want to get down there, though. See, the problem is we should have just gone down to lava level when we were over here. Because I think there was a place we could have gotten down. What if we... Yeah, this is solid ground here. We could make a little, like, spiral stair that goes down. Okay, we've got our stairs here. And then we're going to go this way. I'm cutting those out because my brain will see that and see it as a direction to go in. I could also be leaving some other kind of block so it's more noticeable. Okay. And we'll kind of go like almost to the edge. And then we'll do one of these. It's going to take a lot of block breaking, but I like the 3-wide spiral stair. I find it aesthetically pleasing. I did not remember to keep track of how far down we need to go. Whoop! Well... we were not quite as far over as we needed to be. Okay. Ariad, hey! Okay, let's do this. This fucking sucks. God, I was so close. I mean, I guess we could just make it. Let's see how fast I die from a mob this time. Yeah. That is sort of Ariad's thing, is dying very quickly. There we go. I saved myself like half a heart of damage there. Okay, we're doing like one block. He's so close. I almost looked directly at that Enderman. And often, yeah. Oh, you know what? I just realized I should... Ow, fuck. No, that was dumb. Oh, Joe, why'd you do that? I just realized there were some Discords I could have said I was streaming in that I didn't. Un segundo. Text field, will you fucking work correctly? Thank you. That is still the channel name, right? I haven't updated that yet. Yeah, there we go. I have decided that I'm going back to the Speak with Animals moniker. So probably the next stream, I think that did the Vine Boom event. So close. Your glankles. Your glankles. What are glankles? What's glankles, precious? That was a terrible golem. I blame it on my sore throat. What the fuck was I saying? Oh yeah, I'm going back to the Speak with Animals moniker. I was trying out the AKA Speak thing just as like a, I don't know, I kind of wanted something like shorter. But it turns out the Speak with Animals thing, I don't know, it just kind of, it rolls off the tongue nicely. And I kind of wanted to combine like all of my, I wanted to like make my sort of presence on the internet a little more cohesive. So like all of my RPG and music and streaming stuff and YouTube and all that would be under one name. And I just feel like Speak with Animals is a better name for that kind of stuff. You know? Like Speak with Animals sounds like that person could feasibly be like an opener for Nine Inch Nails at like some weird like divey underground show, you know? It's like the sound of animals fighting, or like 65 days of static. It's one of those kind of names. Speak with Animals. I don't know. I feel like it works. So I'm going to keep it, which means that this channel is going to return to the Speak with Animals name soon. People are going to be mad that I used a pickaxe on that. Okay, there we go. Hey, good job, Ariad. Am I still going the right... No, fuck! Ah, fuck! Oh, fuck! No! No! No, no! Stop it! Stop it! No! Ow! No! Fuck! That was, you know, not my best performance yet. One might say that was pretty bad. Maybe I adopted Ariad's curse. Well, while I'm dead, let me throw this link a few more places. Here we go. Oh, Ariad, I just saw your cute cat pic. Cool. Do they still have, Oh no, they don't have me on that list because I changed my name. Okay. She is a very cute cat. I'm dying. Jeremiah D. Parker 2021. Hey, that sounds like a real bot name. What's the answer to life, the universe, or what's the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything, so that I can know you're a human? Oh, hell yeah. Okay, cool. They're chill. They're chill, guys. No, you're okay. I'm fucking with you. I signed up in 2021. That's where I got them. That's totally cool. Honestly, respect for just like, I feel like we're gonna return pretty soon, like with the resurgence in popularity of like the aughts and 2010s stuff. I feel like we're gonna see a return in popularity of usernames that are like random strings of numbers and letters, bookmarked on either ends with like capital and lowercase x's, or like the sparkle like Windows keyboard emote. I maybe it's just wishful thinking because I personally want to see that come back, but I think it's going to happen. I was surprised the hyperpop producers didn't bring it back, but somebody will. Maybe it'll just be like a cultural zeitgeist thing. Like if anybody could have done it, it was like a Sophie or a Charlie XCX. But we didn't see it happen from either of them. So, you know. The trend is there for somebody. Somebody can start it and take all the credit and be the cool person. It's not going to be me. But, yeah. Anyways, what were we talking about? Yeah, exactly. Like, that just looks fucking cool. Like, I see that username, and I'm like, oh yeah, this person can probably get me that cool one-off liquid dubstep stream from Newgrounds that I lost the link to. Okay, I think we're somewhat organized now. It's fucking Apple. You gotta really lean into that umlaut too, if you're gonna do that. Apple. Apple. Yeah, so what are we doing? We were headed north. That's where we were going. And I got turned around because of the lava. You're playing on a server. The stream has several political and gaming tags. What is this stream mainly? What are your streams usually focused on? Yeah, we talk about politics a lot just because I care about politics. If you want to get specific with labels, I'm a libertarian socialist. But you can just call me a leftist or a Marxist or whatever. Yeah, so we talk about politics a lot just because politics are important. And I think there's probably like queer in the tags or something like that. I'm non-binary. So that's what that's all about. It's just sort of like whatever the fuck I want to do. So we occasionally do like reading streams. We play games. Sometimes I have people on here with me. Lately we've been playing through Secret of Monkey Island. We enjoy ourselves some good old games. I recently played through all of the Resident Evil games. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, we kind of do a little bit of everything. Just whatever seems fun and cool, and we try to have a chill time. We are definitely a lurker positive stream. It is okay to lurk here, but also we really like chatting. So you do you, and we'll be here. And also follow. Follow the stream. Oh yeah, I have a thing. Do I still have that? I don't know if I... Ooh, yeah. There we go. There's a little progress bar. This janky-ass progress bar. Twitch puts these together. You can, like, change the size of them. You can customize the size. But, like, because of the way the graphics and the text are, they just look so jank. But anyways, my birthday's coming up in, like, 2 weeks. It would be really cool to hit 100 followers by then. So there's my one guilt trip for the stream. Okay. Anyways, we were headed north. We are exploring the Nether. We're trying to get to where we know a desert is in the overworld. I really wish I... no, we're fine. I don't know that I've ever heard a scream just when I've was a lurker positive before. Yeah, I don't know if I coined that term or not. I would like to think I did. In fact, you know what? I'll take credit for that right now. Yes, this is the famed Speak with Animals stream where we coined the term lurker positive. You see, before this stream existed, Twitch was a hostile place to the introvert, always being flooded with requests to respond in the chat or vote in the poll. And, you know, in some people, this causes things like panic attacks or the dreaded clicking away from the stream in horror disorder. And, you know, we took a revolutionary approach to solving this problem, which is to say maybe it's not a problem. Maybe some people just don't want to talk sometimes, and that's fine. And with this radical new approach, we've gotten a lot of hate. We've gotten imaginary attacks from people that I am pretending exist right now in this moment as I'm giving this speech. But we will not let them get us down. We will persevere. For where one of us lurks, no, that's getting too close to Nazi rhetoric. We'll be fine. I'm going to stop talking. I don't like what we're about to have to do. But we're going to have to do it. I'm going to go ahead and start this here so we don't have to turn, because I think this lines up with that lava up there. Maybe this. So we'll give ourselves a good block or two. You want to be a blanket burrito? We got you. Hell yeah. Dude, I want to be a blanket burrito. That sounds great right now. What? You know, like when you, as opposed to like a blanket sandwich or like a blanket tostada, sometimes you want to be a blanket burrito and you want to be like nice and, or you could be a blanket soft taco. I feel like there's a little more of a tuck to the tacos. That would be a little too snug for me. I'm not a fan of like confined spaces, but it does feel nice to be like, you know, warm and wrapped up by somebody who cares about you. Must you speak in mysteries? It's, you know, I feel like I can't help it. That's actually not, I'm not being like intelligent or, you know, mystical. Yeah, I speak with animals. I'm not being like intelligent or mystical or like specifically wise or vague with my language for the purpose of growing your own wisdom. I am strictly just incompetent. And my brain don't know how to make words good sometimes. Plus, sometimes we think funny when words good, or when words bad. Sometimes funny when word bad. You stay the fuck away. Man, I forgot about the slimes. That's going to be a problem, because they're all over here, and we're headed to a thingamajig. I think I have the... No, I don't have any string on me. I was going to say I could make I think it's a weird mushroom on a stick, is how you can ride those guys. But you probably need a saddle, too. We're not quite right. Me laugh. Yeah. Sometime my tongue do skippy jumps. Sometimes it slide when tap, and other times it it hop. No! No! Your way of speaking is what I imagine would be produced if the prose of Christ and of a good academic were merged. That's that Southern Baptist trauma speaking, my dude. Sorry if you don't like the word dude. I use the word dude a lot. That man, yeah, that's what you have just pointed out is that I was raised as a Baptist, and I have a liberal arts degree. I have a useless psychology degree. That is one of the worst decisions I ever made in my life, was getting that degree. I'm glad I went to college. It's not that I regret. It's going to college for psychology specifically. I hate that I'm just wasting all this fucking experience because I don't want to be knocked off this platform by these slimes. No! No! You motherfucker! I'm dead. I'm dead. Y'all, I'm gonna cry. I'm not really gonna cry. I am mad though. I knew this would happen. This is why we don't take risks. This is why you stay inside and you don't chat on Twitch. I'm so mad. I'm so fucking mad. None of my stuff is going to be there. Jeremiah, thank you for following. I don't know if you did that earlier and I didn't see it, but I see it now. I deeply appreciate it. Oh my god. Oh no, 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 my dude. No, please, I didn't mean to. Y'all. Oh god, I didn't realize how bad my throat was tonight. Oh god. Well, I guess we can slowly work our way through this. He can't hit us from there, so as long as it's just... No! Okay, what is happening right now? What is happening? Did everybody else see what I saw? This motherfucker. What kind of Baptist were you? I was a Southern Baptist for like my early childhood. Like up until... oh, excuse me. Up until I was probably like... Let's see, it would have been until we moved here, I think? Or maybe a few years before that. So I probably would have been like... from when I was born to like 10 or 11, I was Southern Baptist. And if you're familiar with them, you know, they're rather strict. You know, and obviously I was made to believe a lot of really terrible, hateful things about pretty much every group of people who didn't look or sound or act like me. You know, so that's super cool to do to a child. And then for like until I was out of high school, so for the next like 8 years or so, or 7 or 8 years, what's happening is that you keep screaming and waking everyone around me. They kicked me out of... Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Purple. Yeah, for the next 7 or 8 years, I think we went to a couple more progressive churches, what would label themselves as progressive Christian churches, but they were still very much steeped in that Baptist tradition. Like one of the churches I went to growing up had this thing every Halloween called Hell House, and it was branded to be this like cool haunted house thing. that was like genuinely scary and like fucked up, and we had people in like really gory makeup and shit. And looking back on it, it was a lot of just like it was just like anti-abortion propaganda and like really shitting on people for having underage sex and for like using drugs and stuff. Just really terrible things, terrible messages to be giving like teenagers in a particularly vulnerable town, in socioeconomic status. It really sucked. So that's what I spent my like up until high school in, and then I started losing the faith at some point during that time. But it wasn't until college when my parents started their own church, which was much more progressive. They're, they have, we disagree on certain things politically, but they're generally tolerant people. So they got their own church, and I did like praise and worship for them. I was in their band, or I was the band, really. I like led praise and worship and everything, and like arranged the songs and stuff, doing that whole Christian rock thing. That sucked. It turns out like being involved in the church really quickly shows you like, oh yeah, we're just making all of this up. This is just a grift. This is just to take money from people. Or to hold power, or to exert political influence, or whatever, your motive may be. It depends on the scale of the operation. But, organized religion fucking sucks. I hate it. People can believe what they want to believe. I'm an existentialist. So I believe that like the pursuit of meaning is a fundamentally good thing. And for some people, organized religion is where they find that meaning, and that's fine. But there is nothing in that for me, for certain. Of course, these days I'm almost like, I don't know, I'm almost a fundamentalist against all of that stuff now, which is probably not helpful in its own way. Like I realize I'm pretty, like I don't have a lot of patience for, people who exhibit any kind of religiosity. So, like, that's my own thing that I have to work out. That's on trauma. Like astrology, anything in that wheelhouse, just that's a big no for me. I'm a pass. I've been to the most progressive and the most conservative kinds of churches also. Progressive churches are interesting to be in for me, to say the least. I always enjoyed going to the progressive church I had always gone to since I was a kid. I can't go anymore, though. I have been excommunicated. That fucking sucks. I'm really sorry. Yeah, because that's the other thing. Like, especially in the way our sort of modern society is organized. Not to say there's any kind of purpose or like conspiratorial thing. I just mean like in the way that like that late stage capitalism and that our sort of global internet based way of interacting with the world exists. There's the concept of the third space, which is a place that you go to that isn't your work or your home, that you can like make friends at, that you can go to experience recreational activities, to learn, to just like be you and enjoy your life. And those third spaces are, and almost fully have been, like completely destroyed by late stage capitalism, and by the propagation of like the social media world. So as a result, like people don't have those places to go to, and church can be one of those places that is like super helpful for people, because it acts as one of those third spaces. And unfortunately, that also leads people who are looking for that kind of support network really vulnerable to abuse, which is, that was one of the reasons my parents started their own church, is because the church we were going to, it turned out, was super abusive to a lot of the people who were seeking services there. It really, it was really terrible. I'm a very conservative Christian, but you say that you don't have much tolerance for people of my kind. Does this mean I have to leave? No, not at all. It means they don't want me to be in their church anymore. No, not at all. I think, man, ugh. I think one of the things that um, that is that I think has been like amplified by the conversation around like political parties, the sort of like partisanship of the last few years is this idea that like people who have different beliefs can't get along, and that's dumb. Like if that's the case, then like humanity is a failed project, and we should just stop trying. Um, no, I think we all have things to learn from each other. I do think that my way of believing is the right way of believing, and you probably think your way of believing, regardless of how different or similar it is to my way, is right because it's the thing you believe. And I think that's a human perspective to have. I don't think there's anything wrong or right about it. I think an important thing is to just be open to other people's experiences of the world. When people when people call themselves conservative, I think the knee-jerk response to that is to, and unfortunately, this is also usually a correct knee-jerk response, but the knee-jerk response to that is that that is synonymous with being a bigot, or being hateful or intolerant. And I think that is definitely like an assumption you can make about the people in power who call themselves conservative. But by and large, I think people who would call themselves conservative, and also who are willing to engage in conversation in this way, are probably not that. I think that it's my job as a leftist to present my version of populism in a way that helps. I don't want to group you in with anybody because I don't know anything about you, but helps you as a conservative sort of understand why I believe the things that I believe, and maybe make that not appealing to you in a way that's like, ooh, I'm gonna win somebody over for the left. But like, I think that it's helpful for people to believe that like people should work together, and that people should be tolerant of others, and that everybody should be able to pursue, the American dream if that's a thing that you believe in. I'm a big fan of the sort of like the big net approach to society. And unfortunately, one of the things that conservatism as a movement generally does is close that net through being intolerant of specific groups. Like, for example, right now, one of the front runners of the conservative movement, DeSantis, in his own state, has effectively made kidnapping trans children and taking them from their parents legal. That fucking sucks. Everybody believes their opinion is correct. I'm usually able to get along with people of differing political opinions. I have political beliefs, but they're weak, and I'm quickish to change them. I identify far more with conservative ethics than with conservative politics. I'm interested in that. What do you mean by conservative ethics? God, I'm really sorry. I'm having like a whole asthma thing going on. Because when I think conservative ethics, I think like a sort of Platonic or sardonic like regressivism, like a return to tradition. I mean, the alternative to that, like the extreme of conservative ethics, being like a sort of belief in supremacy of a certain group or people or state. And that can exhibit itself in a lot of ways, but that is, that's why so many conservatives get labeled fascist off the cuff, is because that is sort of like if you take conservatism as an ideology to its extreme, that is what you get is fascism. That's just what those terms mean. But I'm interested in what you mean by conservative ethics, because if Like usually that would be presented in like in opposition to progressive ethics, which is something I generally believe in. Progressivism meaning like a pursuit of positive change, a pursuit of more freedoms over time, like the belief that society should update itself with the times. You know, the opposite of conservatism. This song gets really weird, so I'm going to skip it. There we go. So, for example, I believe that people should remain celibate until marriage because it's ethically correct. I mean, I disagree with that, but I don't have strong opinions about strictly political things like immigration. Wow, that's interesting. I mean, you know, you do what you want to do with your body. I think that is one of the... So that's one of the things where, like, people consider or talk about fascism as the ultimate end of conservatism. Because if you take that train of thought to its ultimate conclusion, like, why do you believe people should be celibate until marriage? Is it because of your religious text? The Bible, you know, it condemns adultery. It doesn't specifically say anything about sex outside of wedlock, but you know, there are definitely conclusions that you could draw from specifically the Old Testament that that would allow you, that would make you come to that assumption, and that is what a lot of Christians believe. That's what I believed for most of my life. But it is ultimately a belief that is just rooted in religion, like the belief in a higher power's ability to say what is right and wrong. And if you take that to its extreme, if you simply allow your ethics to be purely based in a sort of omnipotent being that is infallible and unprovable and unseeable and unknowable, then it allows people who operate in the name of that being to do some really fucked up things as long as you believe that they are operating, you know? Which is what we see with organizations like the Catholic Church or the terrible conservative, you know, Christian churches that we've both been in our lives. So when you say conservative ethics as based in religion, if that's what you're referring to when you say that like something like celibacy is ethically correct, I disagree for that reason. Like I don't think that basing your system of ethics in laws that are passed down from a higher power that is unknowable fundamentally is something that like just is something that leads to good outcomes in the long run. You know, if you were to say, because I believe that like politics is, and I shouldn't say I believe, this is just a true thing. Politics is just an extension of the populace's ethics, you know, being trickled upward through, you know, representation on the legislative scale. So if you were to say have a population of people that believed that, you know, say sex outside of marriage is wrong, you can have a class of people who historically haven't been allowed to marry by that same group. For example, gay people. And because people enjoy sex, it's like a fundamental, aromantic and asexual people are valid. I've been there. I've considered myself a demisexual for a long time. But sex as an act or as a desire is pretty fundamental to human nature. It's fundamental to any animal's nature. And so people are going to do that whether, you know, they're married or not. That is just a sort of part of our base instincts. But if you have somebody in power who truly believes that is an ethically incorrect thing, then they can be put into a position of power where they can act on that belief that is ethically incorrect and try to change the behavior of others to meet that ethical framework that they have, which is where you have things like, I believe it was Alabama, it might have been Georgia, but also Florida and Texas in the past has had this, anti-sodomy laws. These are things that are very harmful to specific groups of people, strictly for the reason that the people who are in power who are making those laws happen to believe that God thinks that what they're doing is wrong. And you end up with people in jail, people fined, people labeled as sex offenders for the rest of their lives. You have lives destroyed simply because the ethical framework that you've put into the position of a legislative body is based in an unknowable God. I have a very certain philosophical view of God. I believe that God is the ultimate standard by which everything is contrasted and thereby determined right or wrong. I also hold the belief that without God, morality is not a philosophically tenable concept. I like philosophy, by the way. Cool. I kind of agree with you that without God, morality is not a philosophically tenable concept. You're right there. You're button on moral anti-realism, which is a nice sort of stepping stone on the path toward existentialism. So I feel you there. I think absurdism is kind of like, it's just, if we're talking about like things being like empirically correct, or like what can you measure about ethics in reality? And the answer is ultimately like nothing. And then you've landed on that like absurdism, that and these are not the same thing, but absurdism and moral anti-realism. I would obviously though disagree that God is unknowable. That's interesting. How would you say God is knowable? And I hope it's clear that I'm just enjoying the conversation. I'm not trying to debate you or anything. These are the kinds of conversations I like to have with people that I disagree with and that I am able to have sometimes. But, sometimes when you're in person, face to face, people get really hot-headed. Specifically, like, I'm in Texas, and, like, it's largely, extended family that I get to have these conversations with. And those just usually, they don't end well. It doesn't help that I'm also sober, and all of those people drink a lot. Yeah, I am interested what you mean by God being knowable. Because I think that is sort of I think that like even most theologians would disagree with that. I think you said you're a Christian. Like even the source texts of the Bible, the Torah, at least of the Old Testament. I don't know what specific brand of Christian you are now. I understand there's a lot of nuance to those beliefs. It's definitely not a monolithic belief system. But, I forgot this song existed. I wonder if do I have the link here? I don't. Maybe? Okay, well, you can check out his music there. The song that is very quietly playing in the background is by my friend, Alex, longtime collaborator. He produces music under the name Alexander Alston. And it's good shit. It's been a while since this type of conversation happened. Yeah, I wish we had these conversations more often. I miss this stuff. It's really just like a... it's one of those things where, like, the kind of things I want to do with this channel, like having conversations like this, can only happen if people, like, watch the channel. But people won't watch unless stuff like this is happening. You know what I mean? So it's like this weird catch-22 of streaming. No, you're okay. The last like 3.5 minutes of things that you said. Yeah, I mean basically that. How would you say God is knowable? Because like the source text of the Bible, the Torah, at least in the I'm not remembering the Hebrew word. It starts with an S. It's the like collection of like 4 to 6 books. It was like the original Old Testament. Genesis is in there, and Exodus. I cannot remember what that part of the Torah is called. But anyways, there are like 3 different places in there where the person who is writing those books talks about God as this unknowable entity, or not even as an unknowable entity, but as like a force of the universe. The like Hebrew word or the Aramaic word for the word being synonymous with the word that they used for God. That's why the translation Yahweh is often used in certain circles, because it sort of gets at that nature as God being the word, this like force of existence in the universe. So it's pretty fundamental, at least to the things like that Jesus would have believed, that God is unknowable. Specifically in the New Testament, I don't remember if this is in James or Luke, but Jesus specifically says, "No one shall know the Lord except through me." Meaning, and in the context of that conversation, meaning that like my works here are how you will know God. Not that like I'm going to be the person that you pray to get presents from my daddy, but specifically that wording in the Greek would have been referring to like the things I am doing here are evidence of God. Like this is how you know God is real, is because I'm doing these miracles and because I'm saying these things for you. There are a lot of assuming you believe in the Bible as the Word of God. Because I know not all Christians do. Fuck. What are we doing? I'm just enjoying the conversation. I'm not even. I've completely stopped playing Minecraft. I kind of want to do the safe thing and head north in the overworld instead of in the Nether. So we're gonna grab some extra wood. God, this song is so pretty. We had so much fun working on this track. Wait, you can't make boats out of work planks? Am I an idiot? I'm a little bit of an idiot. Also, I'm sorry if me quoting the Bible as a non-Christian is ever frustrating or feels sacrilegious. I feel uneasy about doing that sometimes because, if you're a believer in like the Book of Revelation, there's a lot in there about the Antichrist and his followers. Specifically having a deep knowledge of the Word of God and like using it to manipulate people into thinking that their way is the right way. So I know that can put some people off if you're if you believe in that sort of side of the New Testament or that interpretation of Revelations. Yeah, so we're just gonna head north. We're just gonna go. I made a path that heads about like halfway there already, I think. Anyways, if anybody else has any input on this as well, You're welcome to. Oh, the other thing I was going to say on the ethics thing is, like, usually when I hear people talk about conservative ethics, usually they aren't actually. I mean, you say you like philosophy, so I assume you're using that word the way that you probably intended to. Also, hey, Bolton. I don't know if you're watching the stream or not, but hi, Bolton. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Arya. All is right with the world. Fuck. What was I saying? I just completely forgot. Oh, yeah. Conservative ethics. Yeah, I was saying I assume that you're using that word the way it is normally meant to be used, which is like talking about ethics themselves. But usually when I hear people talk about conservative ethics, they're actually talking about conservative economics. I don't think you're... I think clearly based on the conversation so far, you're not using it in that way. But I do find that's sometimes an even more difficult conversation to have because capitalist realism is a real fucking hard mind virus to get over. It is when you've grown up in a country like America and been through American school systems and like had the sort of media indoctrination that we all have. And again, not saying this is like a conspiratorial thing. This is just a product of an ideology perpetuating itself. Capitalism does this naturally. Nobody has to conspire to indoctrinate people into capitalism. It's just a natural response of living in it, or a natural result of living in it. But trying to convince somebody that firmly in their being believes in stuff like a meritocracy existing or like in free markets being tenable in like a world that has experienced global capitalism, man, that's the real fucking philosophical quandary. Oh, hell yeah. Sorry, I'll get to you in a second. I haven't read Romans in a very long time. I haven't read the Bible in general in a very long time, but I haven't read the book of Romans specifically in a very long time. Sorry, my internet out. So I missed a bunch. So sorry if I missed something. That's totally okay. Anyway, I think you're mixing up God being unsearchable and God's being unknowable. The way you use the word unknowable suggests that it is not possible to know God exists sans some special revelation. The scripture clearly teaches that God can be known naturally. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, you're totally right. Yeah. I was saying that God, however, the Bible also teaches that you cannot know God sufficiently through such revelation alone. Yeah. Oh, no, I think we agree there. Maybe the word unknowable was... maybe it was not the right one. When I say unknowable, I mean you can't actually know his will, and the Bible is pretty strong about that. There has been two cases where God made his will apparent on the earth, and Jesus points it out, and Jesus talks about him being the one through which you will know God. Through his teachings, and Moses through the Ten Commandments. Those are the only times that God has made his will knowable to man. Even in like the tribulations of Job, he's not. Well, actually, no, I'm wrong. There's another place with what's his name and his son. Was it Abraham? Who God said to go sacrifice your kid? I'm butchering it, but there were a few times in the Old Testament where he appeared, but that is also, it's arguable that like even the people writing that didn't believe that actually happened. The Torah is not really really considered by its originators at least as far as we know, as far as like Jewish scholars know, to be like a recounting of actual events. They're more like moralistic tales and sort of accounts of lineage than anything. So those few, only through God's special revelations can we know what his will is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the reason I don't think that that's cool, I'm glad we agree on that, because the Bible's pretty clear on that. But a lot of people, a lot of Christians would disagree with both of us on that, which is one of the ways that can be such a problem. That's where you get your like Joseph Smiths, you know. Who can do fucked up things in the name of God. What was I going to say? That made me think of something and I can't. What was I saying? Through revelation alone. Unsearchable. Special revelations. Oh, yeah. I was saying that is one of the fundamental reasons, though, why I don't think it's a good thing on which to base an ethical framework, is because you can only have this understanding of his will through special revelation, and because the only people who have received those special revelations are, you know, prophets and his spiritual son. You know, these like esteemed mythological figures are the only people who can truly claim to know God. I got cool plants from the sniffers. Hey, good job, Bolton. Because that's the case, it becomes impossible to prove, like, in any empirical sense, that, for example, the laws you're passing or, you know, the rules you're putting into place in schools or the prescriptions you have about what people should do or think or say or eat or, you know, any of those things, it becomes impossible to substantiate any of those claims. And when you're dealing with an ethical framework that you want to, you know, an ethical framework is something that, I mean, unless you are completely, you know, if you choose to be completely separate from the world, then I guess this is fine. But I think by the nature of ideologies as memes, as, you know, self-perpetuating things, ethical frameworks should be things that you want to proselytize. You know, by their nature, they're things that you think other people should be believing in too. And so when your ethical framework is not substantiable, if it's not, you know, empirically rigorous, you can end up in a situation where by promoting it, you're causing a lot of harm in the long run due to simply unforeseen consequences. Which is why, you know, I sort of take the absurdist standpoint, which is that there truly is no meaning. There is no, I don't think there's any inherent meaning or purpose to existence. I think we are all the beautiful, incredible, rare sort of eschewing of the universe unto itself. You know, the universe experiencing itself and tasting itself and living and having a conversation with itself. And that as sort of members of that superorganism, all we can do is just, you know, do what we think is right in the moment. And that can lead, you can come to a lot of different conclusions from that. You know, you can stop there and be a hedonist, and live a completely purposeless but joy-filled life. And that's probably fine. You know, as long as you don't hurt anybody else along the way. But for me, I take the humanist branch of that thought, which is to say that I believe if we're going to exist, we should exist happily. And so we should do whatever is necessary to make sure that people have the means to live happy, fulfilling lives, whatever that means for them. So the reason we're just sort of going down the pipeline to my ideology. I'm just sort of explaining how you get there. The reason I'm a social libertarian is, this would have been the term that Marx used for himself. He came up with the term libertarian. Musical chanting, very thematic. Yeah, as we're talking about the universe experiencing itself. Fuck. The reason I'm a social libertarian is because it's basically an ideology that is rooted in the pursuit of positive freedoms for people. I believe that everybody should experience as much freedom as possible, and that in that pursuit of positive freedoms, in that pursuit of creating opportunities for people to have happy, fulfilling lives, we do sometimes need to give certain things up in order to achieve that happiness for the most people possible. Which is why I believe that, you probably, as much as you may want to murder people, probably shouldn't do that, because it reduces the sort of overall happiness that is possible to be had in existence. You can get prescriptions from a system like that, but I believe, that, like we were talking about, it's ultimately meaningless. I technically agree with you that you cannot make ethical judgments well. Ethical judgments well without special revelations according to my framework. But as far as I say, if you have the scriptures, you have special revelations from God, so you don't need to be, for example, a prophet in order to have revelations special enough to determine ethics. Yeah. And the Bible on its own, largely, especially the New Testament, if you, believe Jesus's teachings that he's the only one you should get your word through. A lot of the stuff he did and said, and tried to get other people to do and say, pretty based and cool shit. Jesus was about as close to a Marxist as a religious figure who is espoused as God by anyone right-leaning could ever be. Jesus, like me, believed in the pursuit of personal freedom. He believed that everybody should have access to the means of production. He believed that monetarism, that mercantilism was bad and a corrupting force on the hearts of man. I fully respect a lot of the teachings of Jesus. He's pretty great. I don't believe. Yeah, moneylenders suck. Flip them tables. Yeah. Although Jesus wasn't. Yeah. Well, there's a conversation to be had there about usury, and it's people who are against it being anti-Semitic, but that's not a conversation that I'm educated enough to have, unfortunately. He was also into universal healthcare. Yeah, exactly. No, Jesus was pretty fucking based. Stretchy time. It is stretchy time. Jesus, cool and based and red-pilled. Unfortunately, it's just simply the fact that I don't know if this will upset you at all, but the Word of God, the Bible, the good word, we know based on historical fact that Jesus did not write the New Testament. These were not even his disciples. These were sort of second order letters or essays that were passed around from church to church in the early Christian and New Judaism movement that was developing at the time, between 30 to 200 years after Jesus existed. And then again, there are many books from 1,000 years after he existed that are considered part of the canonical Bible now. Revelations is one of them. So we know that these are not the literal word of God. although, you know, depending on your denomination, you may swear on the Bible that it is the Word of God. But factually, we know that these are historical texts. You know, these are, second order historical texts. You know, these are largely people who were not there. They're repeating things that they heard people say Jesus said. So simply by its nature as being like at least once, and in some places 3 or 4 times removed from Jesus's word, I think it can be a pretty sketchy basis. And like, because of that, the text disagrees with itself in a lot of places. There are places where the Bible is really inconsistent about, what God wants out of his believers, and about how like cosmology works, like what even Satan is, whether Satan even exists or not, is pretty open to interpretation because the Bible is so inconsistent with itself. And like biblical scholars would agree with me on this. This is not like really contentious with people who study theology. So the problem arises when you base an ethical system in that. You run into the natural consequences of having an ideology that is in conflict with itself, and that resolves itself in the ways that cognitive dissonance often resolves itself, which is often violent and sometimes truly just incomprehensible. I disagree that secular humanism can legitimately determine ethics. I disagree that overall well-being is in and of itself enough to support secular humanism. I believe that secular humanism, because it is perched so firmly and confidently on a void, cannot determine any kind of ethics whatsoever. Well, yeah, I mean, it seems like, you would just don't go on Reddit just with the things that you believe. Don't go on Reddit and start talking to people about moral anti-realism, because you seem, and I am as well, so this is not a dig at you, but you seem particularly susceptible to that line of thinking or that perspective, and I get it. It's tantalizing, but yeah, it can make people do some horrible things. Like, for example, Stoicism is something that you get out of that line of thinking, which in many ways comes to a lot of the same assumptions about how it's okay to treat people who aren't living up to your ethical standard as Christianity does in the worst ways. So dangerous path to go down, personally, in my opinion. I think something to keep in mind when you're talking about ethical systems is that, like, simply by having this conversation, and I think anybody who has this kind of conversation would agree, we must believe that there is like some right or wrong. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it, right? So you can say, like, what is this? Where does this concept of right and wrong come from? And you could easily say God, and like that's the end of that thought. You don't have to think about it anymore. Really easy. You can just check that off the list, and you don't have to think anymore about your ethics. You can just say, the Bible is it. I think the biblical contradictions, falsely so-called, are usually shallow and easily resolved. I strongly disagree with that. I'm well-versed in biblical scholarship as far as people who aren't scholars go. As it pertains to this, we simply disagree on facts. Tiresome to talk about. Yeah, no, I agree that we disagree on facts. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah. There's really basic stuff that the Bible contradicts itself on, some of which we've already talked about and you agreed with. For example, God being unknowable in different places. Like, even though God is unsearchable, as you put it, he does reveal himself to some people. So like, if you believe in the Bible, you can either believe that God is truly unsearchable, which I think you can prove in the text, or that God appears to people and gives them actively gives them revelations, which you can also prove with the Bible. Like we talked about, he has appeared to people before. But has he done that in the past 2,000 years? I don't know. If your name is Joseph Smith, you believe that. You believe that he visited you in your attic one day, and in a dream that was totally not cocaine fueled, you wrote the entire Book of Mormon. If your ethical framework is based in an unsearchable, deity that communicates through a text that is, even if in small ways, contradictory with itself, then it becomes really easy to say these things and to get people to believe them as true, because ultimately you can manipulate the text to mean whatever you want it to mean. Which gets back to what we agreed on, which is that, ultimately, a system of ethics can't really be truly determined in any empirical way. I believe we should try to get as close to empirical as possible, but ultimately, it's all made up. There can't really be a universal system of ethics that you can divine mathematically. That is why I don't know if you're familiar with the term the term in ethics. And instead of something being universally applicable or objectively true, there's the term intersubjectively true or intersubjectively ethically correct, intersubjectively ethical. And this is the idea that because of our perception of material reality cannot be universally or objectively described, all we can rely on as far as our experience of reality is how we relate to each other. And this relationship is called intersubjective because we both have our subjective perspectives of reality and of ethics and of our history and how we observe the world, our sensual self, the way we interact with the world. All of that is subjective, which I think we agree on because you've gone down that whole moral anti-realist path. Because we can't know anything is true outside of ourselves, all we can really know is what we agree on from person to person. And so then it becomes, okay, well, now we have a semi-empirical, or what we might call an intersubjectively empirical basis for determining ethics. We can agree from person to person, hey, I think murdering is bad, and you think murdering is bad. So intersubjectively, within our framework of reality, murder is bad because we collectively agree murder is bad. Without some checks on that line of thinking, because it is basically just populism, you can also get to some pretty bad things. Populism can do some fucked up stuff. Just look at the state of Florida, or Arizona. But I do think it is a more, again, it's not objectively empirically correct, but I think it's as close as we can get to an empirical analysis of reality and of ethical frameworks as possible, which is saying that what is considered true as an experience of reality for the most number of people is probably a good rule of thumb for what is actually true about the way the universe works. And you're going to have bias and all of that, but the idea is that on a large enough scale that takes itself into account, just simply through the concept of sampling of orders of magnitude. That was very rambly. It was basically my way of saying that I don't think that the pursuit of an ethical framework from a secular perspective is impossible. And I would say that by its nature, the concept of intersubjectivity is at least somewhat more empirically valid than than an unsearchable deity, because by its nature, it is, like we've discussed, not something that you can actually, except outside of this text, which we have agreed on, except for outside of this text, which is, fundamentally unverifiable. You can't really determine anything from it that is, empirical or even able to be considered true within its own belief framework. So that's what I would say about that. That was really rambly. I'm sorry. What else do we need to do? We were almost to that desert, and then it was nighttime, so we didn't go any further. Hey, people who are on the server, can y'all sleep if you have beds? Oh, Bolton is on there. You got bed? Were those your furs in that U-shaped farm over there? Looks great. There we go. I don't agree that in any sense God's being unsearchable contradicts his revelations. Oh, no, that's not what I'm saying. Not that it contradicts his revelations, but that his unsearchable nature makes his revelations unverifiable, and thereby anybody who has a sufficient number of people who can back them up to say that this person is a prophet, anybody can say that I have a revelation from God, because it's just a popularity contest. And like the only reason we believe the books of the Bible are, the word of God is because enough people in the past said that they are. When determining the meaning of a biblical passage, it must be done in the light of everything else the scripture has said. As many scriptures by themselves can be interpreted mean many things according to many sensible interpretations. However, fluency in the scriptures allows you to find the only working interpretation of a passage. I do not remember where this is in the Bible. I'm very sorry. But both in the Old Testament and New Testament, the Bible is very clear about not interpreting the text. The reason I want to say, I want to say this is in Corinthians, but I believe it was the letters to the Corinthians. Many of these books in the New Testament, including the Corinthians, were letters to Christian churches. And the person, I can't remember which book specifically. You would probably know this better than I do. But the person writing the book specifically says, hey, these words right here apply to these people right now, as do all the other words of God. Do not interpret God's text. The words mean what they mean for the people who they're talking to, which is like a little cynical if you analyze it. But the fundamental truth there is that like the word of sorry, my internet. Can you read what I said and comment on it again? Oh yeah. I was saying that God's being unsearchable doesn't contradict his revelations. That wasn't what I said. Or what I meant to say. What I was saying was that by its nature as unsearchable, as unprovable and unverifiable, anybody who has enough of a backing, enough popularity or enough wealth or enough people to indoctrinate to say that they are a prophet can consider themselves a prophet and have the same legitimacy in an empirical sense. Or in a in an intersubjective sense, as anybody else who has been considered a prophet in the past, which makes it a really shaky basis for an ideology, because anybody at any time can say I'm a prophet, and if enough people believe them, then cool, we have a new book of the Bible, because that's historically how the Bible has been put together. And what I was saying next was that on the interpretation of the scriptures, I disagree that you should interpret the scriptures because the scriptures say not to interpret them. I don't remember what book this was in. I believe it was the letters to the Corinthians, which would have been Paul, I think, writing, or somebody calling themselves Paul. I believe it was in those though. But they make it very clear that the word of the Bible, specifically in the New Testament, because they are just letters to churches that were existing in the early Christian movement. I'm a convert of strong atheism of the humanist branch to Christianity. Wow, interesting. That usually doesn't go that way. That's cool, though. What I was saying about interpretation is the books are very clear that you shouldn't interpret them, and that specifically the words or the word, capital W, is brought to people when they need it, and that like the people who are receiving those letters are the people that those letters are for, and the things that they say are true for those people. Yeah, I mean, you're not necessarily wrong. He did say that in the Corinthians, that it was particular to the letters of the Corinthians. Like specifically, I don't remember if he says this explicitly or if he just implies it, but he basically tells them like, hey, it's okay if you need to kill these people that are occupying your church here. Murder is okay for me, but not for thee. There is some of that in the New Testament, but it's yeah. I mean, I don't think that any theologian of any sort of like significant standing would agree that the Bible should be interpreted. I think that's something that's frowned upon in many denominations of Christianity, with like Mormonism being one of very few that are like okay with it. Yeah. So I don't remember where my train of thought was going there, but the idea is that like, I mean, if you have these contradictions, I mean, who's to say that your interpretation based on your understanding of the Bible is the correct one at that point? Like that's the point that I'm making, is that like regardless of how thorough your knowledge is of the Bible, those contradictions do exist, and I don't want to harp on that because I do think the Bible is outside of one or two major things, like only contradictory in small ways with itself, but those contradictions do exist. I do believe that the scripture teaches that certain people are to be killed, and I think that the scripture is authoritative enough to dictate who we may or may not kill. Yeah, see, but that's like a fundamental, I don't know. I mean, you're getting into it right there where like simply by accepting that is true, you're negating the Ten Commandments, which are sort of like a fundamental thing. I know that a lot of secular people overinterpret the importance of the Ten Commandments to Christians, but it's a pretty significant thing to just wash over. The Old Testament is pretty clear. Killing in no way is good, even for God. There are multiple places where a person is told not to kill somebody who is, like to let God do the killing for them, basically, because it's so beyond, like it's such a corrupting force at the time of the New Testament, or at the time of the Old Testament, in the Torah specifically, to commit that sin. And then the New Testament is just like, well, we've got a lot of Romans persecuting Christians. It would be really helpful if we could reinterpret the text to make it okay to murder them. And that's what Paul does. He reinterprets the text to to say it's okay to murder them. But, if you believe that as a disciple of Jesus, he's operating off of a special understanding of God, then, that his interpretation can be taken to be a true one, a uniquely true one. And him saying that applies right now for these people is true. I'm rambling at this point. I don't think that I'll get you to disagree with divine provenance. So it's okay if you don't want to talk about that anymore. I feel you there. But that is when we're talking about conservative ethics as you outline them, being basically fundamentalist Christian ethics, I disagree just sort of fundamentally that an ethical framework can be based on that to begin with. That a good ethical framework can be based on that to begin with, a consistent one. Which I hope is clear. I don't think says anything about your character or anything like that. Now, the command is, you shall not murder. Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm using those words interchangeably. There are two words in Hebrew, one for murder and one for kill, just like in English. The word in the command is, yeah, you are right. Yeah, it is the word murder. Yeah. Because the words were interchangeable at the time. Killing is, in some circumstance, acceptable. I disagree that you can draw that interpretation from it, but I do agree that they used the word for murder. Specifically, suicide was still not okay because that was considered a form of murder. It would be I would be interested to see a time in the Old Testament that they said killing was okay outside of God doing it. Because even though they do use the word murder, anytime, I mean, even there are cases where a human is about to be sacrificed. I consider suicide a form of murder also. I do not believe that we have the right over our own. Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I fundamentally disagree there. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Which is one of the reasons I don't like basing your ethics on religion, specifically Christianity. The whole, your body being a temple thing, which is a New Testament thing as opposed to an Old Testament thing. But the whole your body being a temple thing, really easy to just not allow anybody any personal freedoms once you believe that. If you believe people don't have the right over their own bodies, it becomes very difficult to believe that people should have the right to vote or to do what they want with their free time, or to work the jobs that they want to work, or to get paid an appropriate wage. From that belief extends all sorts of really problematic things if you go down that logical path. In the Torah, God gives laws about who should and should not be put to death. Interesting. I know death as a punishment for committing certain crimes is okay. But there were also certain ways of killing that they did at that point in time that they believed to be separating themselves from the act of killing so that it wasn't murder. They very much considered killing in basically all its forms to be murder. They did have separate words for that, but in a legal sense, at that time in Hebrew culture, it would have been, it's it's not as there's not as wide a berth between killing and murder as you seem to be making it out to be. But yeah, I mean, you're right. The death is a punishment for certain crimes. I believe that we only have a right to do with ourselves what God permits, which involves treating each other well. Yeah, Jesus does. I don't know that the Old Testament says anything about it, but Jesus does at least say, the golden rule, that do unto your neighbor as you would have them do unto you. Which is good. I think that's a pretty fundamentally good thing to believe. Yeah. Seems pretty incompatible with some of the other stuff. Yeah. Because simply by the nature of having a way that you would like others to treat you implies a sort of personhood and control over one's experience of reality that your body being a temple and wholly devoted to the service of God doesn't really allow for. But, I mean, it's those minor inconsistencies that spiral out into major things that I'm talking about. What are we even doing here? We're trying to go to that desert. I keep forgetting. We've talked through a full day again. Bolton, I need to sleep. Ugh. Man, I need another Ricola. I'm sorry. 1 second. I'll be right back. Got a little Ricola wrapper ASMR. I feel like death. Okay, let's bow. I need a bow before I go. I didn't intend for that to rhyme. But it did that time. Oh, it would have been better if I said, but I did this time. Talking through the whole day is like phone guy talking through the entire first night in FNAF. Yeah, you're totally right. I do want to stream the FNAF games at some point. I feel like the whole genre of mascot horror really escapes me. I haven't been exposed to a lot of it. Like, I missed the sort of FNAF thing when it was like at its peak, I think. And like sort of as a result, I haven't tried any mascot horror since then. So, I don't know. I'd like to learn a little bit about the genre. Just like see why is it that it's so popular? Is it really just kids? It probably is. It's mostly children playing the games. I mean, I figured I played all the Resident Evil games, and that was a slog at points. I believe that every command should be observed in the light of every other command, lest evil very possibly ensue. I agree with that. That's why I don't think it's a consistent ethical system. I think that there are certain things that God approves of his people wanting for themselves. Therefore, if you want yourself what God wants you to want for yourself, if you want for yourself what God wants you to want for yourself, and not what you yourself merely want for yourself, consistency is restored. I don't want what I believe to be right and wrong based in tautology. You know, it that kind of highlights the whole absurdism of the thing, doesn't it? Like, I don't know if that restores consistency so much as it just ties up a knot that isn't there because it was already a loop, you know? Like if that's the sort of line of the logic, then it's like I've been saying this whole time, anything can be justified under the will of God. I mean, the Bible has expanded and contracted many times over its existence. There's no, it's not a text that's written in stone. You know, I mean, I'm sure. Yeah, you're definitely aware of that. I think we've covered that. You know, I mean, the popular version of the Bible we have now, the King James version, you already pointed out has inconsistencies in its language. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because like that's the version that nearly every Christian in existence uses as a religious text, and it's got fundamental errors. Yeah, people disagree about the canon. So, like, simply by the very nature of people disagreeing about the canon, it becomes impossible to develop a consistent ethical framework because there's no way to verify what's correct and what isn't. It's strictly a popularity contest. You know, I mean, there could be cases made for, I can't remember, is it called the Apocrypha? The Book of Enoch, or the second book of Enoch, and the books of Mary, and I'm forgetting all of their other names. But, you know, there are multiple books that, like, certain sects of Judaism have held as canonical texts since before the Bible existed, that are discounted nowadays in Christianity because they don't agree with the rest of the texts that have been selected to be put in the Bible. I think ransacking history to figure out what scriptures are legitimate or not can allow us to find out what is legitimate and what is not. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one way to do it. I mean, considering the Library of Alexandria doesn't exist anymore, that's, you know, that's going to be hard. Not to be glib or anything, but, you know, that's sort of a dog chasing its own tail sort of situation. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that there's anybody that believes that's actually possible to do. Like, I know you're saying that. I don't know if you believe that is a thing that is physically possible to do. Is find all of the religious texts, find all of the books of Christianity, or Judaism, or Islam, and rectify them together into one consistent canon, because that is what you would have to do, because you know, they are all branches of the same source religion. You know, in order for one to be true, it must necessarily be true that parts of the others are true. You know, I mean, there's a lot of things you have to there would be a lot of work to be done, some of which is physically impossible because the Library of Alexandria burned down, in order for that to be possible. So I don't know that anybody truly believes that that is capable of being done. And simply by that fact, that's one reason why I would say that's probably not a great place to start your ethical framework. What is this? Oh, fuck. Hell yeah, I was gonna need a portal out here. Oh, this is perfect. Okay, that's what I thought. We'll talk about that later if we feel like it. More obsidian. Hell yeah. Well, at this point, I just want to check in. How is everybody doing? How's chat? How is the evening treating everybody? Later, Bolton. Man, yeah, no, I mean, there's a presumption you're making there, about the predictive power of the prophets that, I mean, I think you could easily say is just factually incorrect. I mean, there are certainly multiple statements made in the Bible that, depending on the person, you may interpret as prophecy and you may not, just depending on like what you believe personally. That, you know, have not necessarily come true. I mean, the big ones being like the prophecies of Jesus's birth. You know, there's no way to evidence those. There are entire sects of the church, Catholicism being the biggest one, that disagree with the common understanding of when that took place. You know, like there are lots of disagreements among the prophets about yeah. I mean, I would say in this case, when it comes to disagreeing on the facts, it's less a matter of disagreeing on the facts when it comes to the prophets and like disagreeing on like what can be considered a fact. You know, it's not like we have two competing forms of evidence that we're referencing here. It's like there's evidence of one thing, which is to say the contradictions and the historical usage of powerful figures of the church in, you know, changing over time who is and isn't considered a prophet and what is and isn't considered the word of God. And then there's just saying that's okay, you know, because when you know, you'll know the word of God when you hear it, that sort of thing. Yeah, I guess we do seem to fundamentally disagree on how one comes upon what is fact and what isn't. Yeah, which sucks. But I mean, I appreciate the conversation. But I mean, in a very real way, you know, there's no one branch of Christianity that agrees with any of the others on what is and isn't prophecy, or who is and isn't a prophet. And that, by its very nature, sort of disagrees with what you're saying there. which is that it's even possible to know who is and isn't in any factual way. You know, I mean, there are evidences of the text of things being true within the sort of, you know, the mythology, and I'm using the academic word here, mythology, of the text. So, like, if that's how God intends people to know His word, is just by seeing whether or not things come true or not, and determining whether to believe a person from that. I mean, in the interim, until the prophecy comes true, there's no way of knowing whether the person is a prophet or not. So, what's the point of that prophet being around unless they're not going to predict the future? You know, because if you're predicting the future, then there's no way to know you were right until after the thing has already happened. Which, you know, sucks for anybody going to religion for a sense of purpose. I forgot what I was about to say, but I think that basically gets my point across. You know, it's just not. There's no way to consistently do that. I mean, you're right that is what the Bible says. I'm not disagreeing with that. I don't think we've disagreed on the actual text of the Bible. It's you know, it's really a question of whether you're willing to engage with the fundamental inconsistencies of that, and like the logical conclusions of that kind of thinking, or whether you prefer to let the text tautologically prove itself. You know, I think that all this is proven by the diversity of Christianity is that some people are right and some are wrong in their analysis. Yeah, but I mean, doesn't that sort of make God an idiot? Like, if he wanted to, so like you've established, the way to be a good person, at least within your framework. I'm not saying this is the true way of interpreting the text, but within your framework, the way to be a good person is to want what God wants you to want and to do what God wants you to do. Well, yeah, but we're all extensions of God, are we not? So if that is true, and we're assuming that that's true, that is how we are good. And if the way to know what God wants for you to do and wants for you to want is through prophecy, through the word, and the only way to know whether the word is true or not is to see if the word comes true and follow that person's teachings, then there's a lot of steps along the way you have to get to. And you have to assume that every person has an exacting and consistent experience of reality and makes the same assumptions and conclusions from those events happening and from the teachings of those espoused prophets. Allowing for a universe in which there is even the possibility of somebody misinterpreting that is pretty heinous. I mean, God would have to be pretty hateful to allow for that to happen in the first place. I mean, that's again, assuming your interpretation of the text. I'm not saying that's necessarily what the Bible says specifically, but if that's what we're supposed to be doing, is believing what God wants us to believe and doing what God wants us to do, and the only way to know that is by believing in the right person to communicate what that is, then by the very nature of putting people in a world where they might possibly come to the wrong conclusion, I mean, he's damning people to hell. He's putting people into an existence that has the opportunity for them to experience a lot of pain and hurt that is, you know, not his will for them. So I'm having trouble understanding how that rectifies. It must be understood that nobody deserves revelation, and that if God were not merciful, God's strict fairness would damn everybody. God has the right to damn whoever he wants. Okay. I mean, at that point, you're like, what is the point of even having an ethical framework? Like, why do you do anything that you like? Like, I'm not trying to be mean in saying this. I genuinely don't understand how one does or believes in anything if that is the case. Like, at that point, do you just believe in God because you're afraid of going to hell? Is that why you're a Christian? Because that seems like the only reason to believe in God, if that's true. Is just to hope that you get on his good side. Sorry, I had to burp. Ricola makes me burp. I don't know why that is. Is it like a pH thing? God, I'm just coming back to like the idea that nobody deserves revelation is wild. I mean, we're all God's children, right? Like, what a I mean, I'm already saying blasphemous things, so I don't get anything out of couching my language, but like, what a hateful being. I believe that belief in God is the most rational of beliefs. I myself am not afraid of being damned. I love God also. God commands me to love him. God is the stand. So do you only love God because he commands you to love him? It is the standard of good and evil. Therefore, it is good for me to love him, not merely to serve him out of fear. However, yes, I am fearful of God. Have you ever watched Donnie Darko? I don't know. There might be something useful in that movie for you. Man, yeah. No, I agree with you that it is, believing in God is the most rational belief if you fear eternal damnation. Which, by the way, was added in the New Testament. The idea of souls going to hell, new thing. It's one of the major contradictions of the Bible. People don't go to hell in the Old Testament. They go to a middle space that was not bad, but also not good. People didn't go to heaven in the Old Testament either, except a very few of them who were allowed to ascend to the throne. Huge contradiction there. But it is the most rational if, as a New Testament Christian, you believe in eternal damnation. Because, yeah, it's either God is real and you believe in him and you do good and you're a good boy and you don't go to hell, or you're a bad person, or you weren't ever given the opportunity to find God. The Old Testament speaks very seriously of an afterlife, speaking vaguely about... Yeah, shill. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I was forgetting the word. Hell is only vaguely alluded. It's not limbo. It's not... Limbo is a Catholic thing. That was a later construction. Limbo is not anything that is like actually justified within the text of the Bible. It's justified in the Catholic Bible, which is, again, a construction just like any of the other collections of the books of the Bible. But yeah, Sheol is the only like mentioned place of an afterlife, and it is exactly very vaguely and sparsely mentioned. I think it's only mentioned like 2 or 3 times in the whole Old Testament. There was there's a great YouTuber who is a scholar of theology. I'm blanking on his name, but his channel name is Esoterica. You might be interested in looking into him. He talks a lot about historical mythology and like the history of magic and that sort of stuff. Like, not that he actually believes in magic, but sort of like how magic has been practiced and believes over time. He's predominantly a scholar of Judaism. But more than that, for certain, Sheol appears many times in the Psalms. Okay, I didn't know that. I know the channel, by the way. Nice. Yeah, no, he's a cool guy. I think his political opinions are largely pretty based too. Yeah. I don't know what. Maybe I was thinking of that. What is the name for that collection? It's like the first 4 or 5 or 6 books of the Old Testament, and I can't remember what they're called. There's a name. It's like the something Torah. And I can't remember what I think that's what I was thinking of with the very few mentions of Sheol. Anyways, it doesn't matter ultimately. The thing I'm concerned about is that you believe in God because you fear him. It's okay to love somebody and fear them at the same time. Nowadays, we would call that Stockholm syndrome, but it is possible, and I'm not denying your experience, nor diminishing it by comparing it to the Pentateuch. No. Yeah, no, I know what I'm familiar with that word, and that may be what I'm confusing. What is the... Whatever. I'll look it up some other time. We'll have a similar conversation again, I'm sure. I don't believe in God because I fear him. I fear him as a result of my belief in him. How did you come to believe in God? I'm interested because I also if the word is how we know him, then none of us can know God until we experience the word. I was taught it from an early age, and that was why I believed in God, was because I was taught the Bible. Shortly put, I found Christianity most rational. That's wild. Have you ever looked into like Shinto or like Buddhism or I'm forgetting the word for a religion that most people on Earth believe in. Not most people, a large portion of people. Hinduism. That's the word I was looking for. I don't know. There's a lot of rationality in those two. I think just as much as Christianity. I wasn't all afraid of hell before my conversion. I looked into other religions. If I had not converted to Christianity, I probably would have converted to Islam. I think Islam is about as consistent as Christianity and just as historically abused by its proponents. Yeah. Man. But that's really interesting to me that like the rationality of it would draw you to it. Because I think as we've discussed and like agreed on, there's not really any inherent rationality to it. Like your own, ethical reason for why to do the things God wants you to do is because he wants you to do them. Like we've pointed out the inherent tautology of the whole thing. So I'm interested to know what you think is logical about that would make it more legitimate than a secular belief system. Because like by its nature, its fundamental nature as a metaphysical belief system, it runs into these these problems of like material provability, of like tangibility, of you know, being searchable, as we've already discussed. So it seems like by their nature, these religions, specifically ones based in interpretations and reinterpretations of the teachings of early Judaism, as Islam and Christianity are, that you would find those more consistent. I've never been afraid of hell. Before I believe in God, I didn't believe in hell, so I wasn't scared. After I converted, I immediately began to follow God, and so I wasn't scared of hell. So do not ascribe my belief to mere terror. I mean, you said you feared God. I've never been afraid of hell. Before I believed in God, I didn't believe in hell, so I wasn't scared. Yeah, see, that's the difficulty I'm having, is why, like, where the rationalism comes in. Because it seems like if you started off from a place of secularity and a belief in empiricism and logic, that moving to a belief system such as the one you're describing for yourself would be a pretty irrational leap. How am I not dying of hunger? I feel like hunger is supposed to have destroyed me by now. Well, the desert was not where I thought it was going to be. So that sucks. I don't know if I want to search for it anymore. I don't know if you're still typing. I am interested in your response still. Standing still, perhaps. Yeah, I guess maybe it didn't make my hunger go down. That's interesting. Fuck, y'all. If I'm getting sick, I'm going to be so mad. Like, I kind of hope it's allergies. But also, my brother just texted me, hey, can you take the trash cans to the curb? I don't want to put pants on. That's good. This is a solid ethical system. I know that my brother I want him to be happy because it is the right thing. And he would be less happy if he had to put pants on. And in order for him to take the trash cans to the curb, he would have to put pants on. I don't care whether or not I have to put pants on, nor do I care much whether or not I have to take the trash cans out. And so the sum total good is increased by me doing the work of the trash cans. So my brother does not have to put on pants. This is a logical belief system. I reject your premise that Christianity is irrational. I am still a rationalist, and I still adhere to reason, I think. I don't know that I would describe you as a rationalist definitionally. I mean, like, specifically the definition you gave of your ethical system was a tautological one, which is opposed to rationality. As a matter of fact, I now adhere to a type of rationalism that is more close to the technical philosophical sense of the word. There are a few opposing definitions of that word, though. Yeah, I mean, I tend to prefer to use words as they're colloquially understood, rather than, their sort of etymological use. Although there are exceptions for that in my own use too. Like, I use communism in the true sense of the word communism, not in the way that many people in America think of communism, which is to say the government of Russia or China, which are not actually communist governments. So I understand. I'm not saying there's anything wrong about using rationalism in that way. But it does make it, I guess, difficult to come to an understanding. Because I think in a very real sense, what you're describing is the opposite of rational. at least in the sense of the like tautological justifications you're using for not only belief in God, but the continued belief in God once you believe in him. Or them. Or her. It's Pride Month. God can be whoever it wants to be. You know, I'm surprised there hasn't been like a woke progressive Christian movement to regender God. That'd be pretty great. I would like to see that. Like some like you know, after the right wing has dropped the facade of needing Christianity to function, like the liberals take hold, and there's like some progressive Christian, like misplaced progressive movement to like describe God as agender and use like Gijir pronouns for it. For sure. That'd be good. That's going to be in my alt fiction that I write about future America. That'll be what I say happens. The church went woke. And then they went broke. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. We're just having fun here. We're having a good time. What the fuck is that? Ah, fuck you. I wonder whose place this is. Huh. Okay. Well, without a clear direction as to what I should do, I think we'll probably end stream here. Unless Jeremiah, unless you have you know, one or two things you wanted to cover. But I think at this point, you know, we're largely saying the same thing to each other over and over again. I understand we have our very fundamental disagreements, and that's totally fine. Again, you don't have to go anywhere. This is, I enjoy these conversations. Excuse me. As for tautology, I accept it at the highest level. God embraces it in himself. Yeah, I am that I am, right? Yeah. For example, God explains why he loves his people and effectively says, I love you because I love you. I believe that the highest transcendental, the highest transgender realities are tautological. The highest transcendental realities are tautological. Good is good because it's good, and it's good to do good, therefore do good. No, like, man, see, that's the thing. Like, I do agree that, like, if you were to accept, let me finish what you're saying. I think that all realities that aren't the highest transcendental realities cannot be this way, all of them. However, at the highest level, they are necessary. I mean, yeah, like, by their nature, if something is transcendent, I guess it comes back to that, like, unsearchability of God and what he wants, right? Like, you're basing this belief in something that you yourself, you know, by the teachings of your own religion, cannot fully understand. You can't comprehend the fullness of God. So the pursuit of it in and of itself, transcendental realities are necessarily tautological. I am saying, don't consider this irrational. I guess maybe you might be using a different definition of rational than the version that pretty much everybody uses. I think that's where the rub is. Tautologies are, by their nature, irrational. Things that are transcendental are definitionally irrational. That's one of the you could even say synonyms for something being transcendental, and that being something that is inexplicable by human understanding. Something rational being something which can be understood by humans, which can be reasoned. The origin of the word rational. So I guess I just disagree on all counts there. I understand. I reject your premise that tautologies are necessarily always irrational, as strange as that may seem. It does seem strange, because I mean, definitionally that is true. Tautologies are irrational. They wouldn't be tautologies if they wouldn't. They would be rationalizations, because that's why the word tautology exists, is because we need a word for something that isn't rationalized externally or in any objective or intrinsic or intersubjective way. Tautologies are self-referential. They're self-justifying. And so by their nature, they're not able to be reasoned. They're not able to be rationalized. So they are irrational by definition. So yeah, I think maybe you're just, I don't want to say using the words wrong, but you're not using those words in the way that people typically use those words. So I think that may be where we're misunderstanding there. But again, I appreciate the discussion. Maybe reasonable is a better word. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking like something, if by reasonable you mean something that somebody is capable of reasoning themselves into believing, I think you're proof of that, right? Clearly, these tautologies can be believed in, and you have found a way to justify for yourself a way to believe in them. I think that when you're talking about ethical frameworks, we should have a higher standard than something just being reasonable. I think a good rule of thumb for a moral or ethical framework is something that can be, externalized, something that can be prescriptive. And by their nature, these tautologies, these things in which you're basing your fundamental beliefs, your sort of first premises of the things that you believe in, if you want to use a philosophical term, are, by their nature, irrational. And so any of the interpretations that you take from them cannot definitionally be based in, a rationality that is understood by humans, which makes sense because your own word you used for them was transcendental, which is, definitionally something that is not capable of being understood. So, yeah, I mean, I think we disagree. I mean, we agree on what you believe. We disagree on whether or not it's rational and whether or not that makes it something good, that is something that is okay to prescribe to other people. So, yeah, I mean, I deeply enjoy the conversation. Again, those kinds of beliefs, having analyzed everything we have talked about, I concluded that yes, we in fact disagree. Yeah. I tip my cap to you, sir. I do also believe that we disagree. Yeah, I think going back to the point that this conversation started on, I think that it is important that when we are developing ethical frameworks and that when we are prescribing those in a public forum, like, for example, voting, when we're voting for politicians, when we're proselytizing for the things that we believe in, which if you do what God wants you to do, I'm sure you do. That is, one of those things that the New Testament wants you to do. If you are proselytizing, I believe that your way of thinking, or at least a line of thinking that is based in the same first premises that you are based in, can lead to some really, and has historically led to some really horrific things, some really anti-humanist things that have increased suffering on the earth more than they have decreased suffering on the earth. And I think in an intersubjective sense, which is, as we've discussed, as close as we can get to objectivity, that is factually true and historically verifiable and is therefore rational, or rationalable, reasonable. And therefore, I sincerely hope that nobody who believes the things you believe ever holds political office, because it leads to bad things, and it almost never leads to good things. And that sucks, but that is how I think about it. I don't think you're a bad person. I don't think you believe bad things. I don't think you, I'm not going to assume that you would ever do anything wrong in the name of God. I have no reason to assume that. But historically, people who believe the things you believe, when given power, do bad things. So I hope that you can analyze that for yourself. And with that, we will end the stream. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for the conversation, Jeremiah. Yeah, it makes sense that you would say that. I believe in theocracy, and I imagine you would dislike that much. Yeah, that's pretty much my hell. That's, hey, I mean, if you're interested in a condo, man, have you heard of Florida? I believe in theocracy, and I imagine you would just like that very much. By the way, do you have a schedule? I want to be here again. Yeah, I don't really have a schedule. Yeah, it is week on, week off. I am divorced, and I have a 7-year-old son. He's fucking amazing, but I have him half the time. So on the weeks that I have him, I don't stream because I want that to be all his time. But yeah, so for the rest of the week, I'll probably stream 2 or 3 more times. I usually stream Saturdays pretty consistently, Saturday evenings. I'm trying to get more consistent about streaming again, especially I'll be starting a Patreon soon. So once that gets going, I plan to be streaming consistently because I'll be like streaming productivity stuff. So yeah, I do genuinely hope to see you around. And I appreciate the conversation. I think those kind of conversations are really necessary for everyone to have, and to have them in a civilized way is really, really important. Although I do understand in certain cases why that conversation can't be civilized. I think, there are circumstances in which, when somebody is infringing upon your rights or your personhood in a significant enough way, that violence is definitely morally justified, which God believes too, according to our conversation here. So anyways, thank you all for stopping by. Thank you for the conversation. I will see you in the next one. Until then, I love you. Bye.